In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a lead generation agency website with WordPress and Elementor. WordPress is a free software that we are going to use in order to create our website and also customize it just the way we want. And Elementor is the simple to use drag and drop page builder that we are going to use in order to design the pages of our website. Don't worry if you are new to WordPress, because I'm going to hold your hand every step of the way. By the end of this tutorial, you will have a fully customizable agency website to start generating sales with. Before we get started, let me show you what we'll achieve by the end of this tutorial.
This is exactly what we are going to create in today's video. On this website, we have a call to action that can take users to a page where they can book a call with us. We also have this menu link that can take us to the very section where you want to go. So for instance, if I go ahead and click on portfolio, it will take us to the portfolio section. Now, if I hover on any of these templates, that is the work I've done so far, you see a scroll effect. If I hover on the next one, you see the same scroll effect. With this feature, you can use it to display some of your works. Now, if I click on this particular one, it will open the particular website in a new tab, which is kind of cool. I can also go over to our process, and this is how the process section looks like. I'll be showing you how you can create all this in this video. If I go over to pricing, this is how the pricing section looks like. We also have other sections like the testimonial section, value proposition section, and then frequently asked questions section, where users can get answers to the most frequently asked questions. Now, if I go ahead and click on book a call, it will bring me to this very page where users can easily go ahead and book a call. So with this, since I'm making a web agency website, I want users to book an intro call, which is going to last for 30 minutes. And the platform is going to be on WhatsApp. You can choose whichever platform you want to use, and I will show you how you can do that in this video. It should be noted that the main purpose of a website like this is to get potential clients to book a call with you, and that is where you are going to convert them into paying clients. So for instance, if I go ahead and choose maybe this date, I'll choose this particular time and I click on next. From here, I can enter in my name, email. If there's an additional message the user will want to add, they can go ahead and add it right here. And I want them to enter in their phone number, because I want to make sure that I have their phone number in order to call them on WhatsApp. So I'll just enter a random number. And all the parameters I've selected will be right here. I click on schedule event. You are scheduled. A calendar invitation has been sent to your Gmail address. And this is the summary of the form I've just filled. So as an administrator of the website, I will receive a message with regards to this booking, and the client will also receive a message with regards to the booking. It should be noted that this website is just going to be a single page website. Another page we'll be adding is the book a call page.
So that's in a nutshell what we'll be creating by the end of this tutorial. So if you like what you have seen and want to create your very own web agency website to generate sales, keep watching. Now, to create this website, we are going to use only free resources. The only thing you need to pay for is a domain name and a web hosting, which is a standard for every website. Now, what is a domain name? A domain name is simply the address of your website that users can type into the address bar of their browsers in order to launch your website. Now, what is a web hosting? A web hosting is simply a server where all the resources of your website will be stored so that users of it can have access wherever they are throughout the world. So to get your very own custom domain name and a web hosting, click on the very first link in the description down below.
Or you can go over to your address bar and enter dikupages.com/hostinger. Hit enter, and this will bring us to hostinger.com. Below here are the various packages you get. They have premium, business, and cloud startup. Choosing any of these plans will depend upon the kind of website you want to create and the number of websites you want to be able to create. The very first one, you'll be able to create 100 websites, followed by the second one, that is business, 100 websites, and then 300 websites for the cloud startup. So choosing any of these packages will depend upon what you want. For this demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and choose the premium package. From here, you'll be able to choose the number of months you want. As you can see, for 1 month, you will be paying $11.99. The rest of the payment plans, you'll be paying $2.99 per month. So why is the rate the same for the rest of the payment plans? Now, if you take 12 months, you will pay $9.09 per month when you are going to renew your plan. And then with 24 months, you'll be paying $8.99 per month during renewal. And then with the 48 months, you'll be paying $7.99. So what this means is that the lesser the amount you pay during renewal will depend upon the maximum number of months you'll be selecting. And take note, each of them will come with a free domain for the first year, as you can see. For this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and stick to the 48 months. Going down, from here, you can go ahead and create your account if you are new to Hostinger. Going down, next you'll be required to choose your payment gateway. And take note, this is the amount I'll be paying for the 48 months. That is $143.52 for the 2 years. That is 48 months. Next, I go ahead and enter in my names, my phone number, country of residence, and then the rest of the fields. Going down, as you can see, this happens to be the total I was going to pay. And because of the 75% discount Hostinger is giving, we are now going to be paying this amount. And remember, I said I'll be giving you additional coupon code, which you can use to further save 10% on your hosting. So if I go ahead and click on have a coupon code, then in here you enter Swadiku, just like this, then click on apply. Coupon code is applied, and now I'll be paying $129.17. Isn't this cool? So this amount you'll be paying is for 2 years. From there, I go ahead and enter in my card details. After entering all the details and clicking on Submit Secure Payment, I'll be redirected to my Hostinger control panel. As you can see, I'm using the business web hosting package, and I've already hosted 12 websites right here. So to get started with your own website, click on Websites right here. And from here, you go ahead and click on Add Website. Then choose WordPress because that is what we'll be using for our website. Next on this page is where you enter your login details for your WordPress website. In here, you choose the email address you want to use, and automatically the email address you use to register on Hostinger will be placed here for you. Next, I go ahead and enter in my password. Then I click on Next. Now, what type of website do you want to build? Are you going to create an online store, blog, portfolio, business and services website, affiliate marketing site, or other? Take note, this is just a survey. For this demonstration, I'll just go ahead and click on Create Blank Site. Remember, we have a free domain to register. So this is where you enter your domain name. So I'll just say Dikupages.com. If the domain is available for you to register, you'll see it as part of the list right here, and it will indicate free. Upon selecting it, you just go ahead and click on Next to move to the next step. For this, I'll click on Use Temporary Domain. And now WordPress is installing on my website. Now it is finished installing. I'm redirected to WordPress admin. From here, I'll go ahead and click on Admin Panel, which will open in a new tab, and I'll be redirected to the back end of my WordPress website. And now I've logged into the back end of my website. I can exit from here. The next thing I'm going to do is do some cleaning up. So I come over to plugins, and I'm going to go ahead and uninstall all these plugins. So I select all, bulk actions. First of all, I deactivate them, then I click on apply. Next, I select all again. However, I'm going to go ahead and untick Lightspeed Cache. With this plugin, you'll be able to boost the speed of your website. I go over to bulk actions, delete, apply, OK. And they are gone. The next thing I do is go over to appearance. Here I have some themes right here. If I go to the front end of my website, at the moment this is the theme we are using. If I go to the back end and activate any of these themes, just hover, click on activate. I come back right here and refresh. This is how my website will now look like. And I'll be showing you how you can install the theme we are going to be using for this website. Since we are not going to be using these two themes, I'll just go ahead and take them off. I click on theme details, delete, OK. Theme details, delete, OK. And now we are done. Next, let's go over to post. We don't need this post. I click on trash. The moment you install WordPress, you'll be given that post. I go over to the trash, and I go ahead and empty the trash. Next, I go over to pages. I have this page, I don't need it, I trash it. I go over to trash, then I empty trash. And now we are done with the basic cleanup. The next thing I'm going to do is install a theme. Take note, a theme is basically the design and layout of your website. That is what we have right here. So to install a theme, I go over to appearance. On top right here, I click on add new theme. From here, you get a bunch of themes you can use on your website. For this demonstration, we are going to use Blocksy. I have Blocksy right here. I click on install. Then I go ahead and activate. Upon installing the Blocksy theme, you see I have this notification right here, which is telling us to install a plugin called Blocksy Companion. With this plugin, you'll be able to add additional functionality to your Blocksy theme. So I go ahead and install it. It is installed and activated. Upon installing it, you'll be taken to the Blocksy dashboard. From here, you can do some additional functionalities which we are not going to be going into. Now, if I go to the front end of my website and refresh, you see the new look and feel of my website. So that's it on how we install a theme on our website. The next thing we are going to do is choose a design system for our website. Design system has to do with the kind of font you'll be using on your website, as well as colors you want to be using on your website. So to choose our design system, make sure you go over to the front end of your website, then click on customize. From here, I go over to colors, and these are the color palette we have at the moment. You can come over to advanced, then click on color palettes. This is where you can have access to some color combinations. For instance, if I choose this one, you see the color has changed on my website, and you can change to whichever one you want. I'll just maintain the color palette one, and I'm going to go ahead and change them to the colors I want to use. I already have the colors I want to use on my website, so I'll just go ahead and copy and paste them. So the first one, I copy it, click on the color you want to change, and from here you go ahead and paste. As you can see, the color has changed and it has taken effect already. I grab the second color, I click on this one, that is the color one. I change it from here, and similarly I'll do the same thing to the rest of the colors I want to use. Alright, I've changed all the colors I want to use, that is from color 1 to color 4. The rest of the colors I'm going to go ahead and use white. So I'll just drag it to the end here, or you can easily go ahead and enter hashtag FFFFFF. So I'll do the same thing right here. The last one I think is already white, so I leave it. Awesome. Next, I come down to global colors. The base color, I'm going to go ahead and use this as my base color. That is the color for my text. The links color, I leave it as color 1, and then the hover, I leave it as color 2. For text selection, I use color 2, and then the background, I use white, and I'm going to go ahead and use the color 8. And the reason is that maybe in future I may want to change any of these colors. So if I use them and change them later, it will affect my entire colors. Whatever be the case, I'm not going to be changing the color 8 to any other color except white. So I use color 8. Next, I go over to all headings and I'll set it to color 8. That is my white color. So any heading tag I'll be using on my website will assume the same color. And finally, I have site background, and I'm going to go ahead and change it to my color 1. Now if I highlight this, you see the text highlight color has changed. Perfect. The next thing I do is choose my typography. So I go back, then I go ahead and click on typography. That is the font I'm going to be using. And the base font, I'll set it to Nunito. Take note, it will be Nunito and not Nunito Sans. So I select the first one. I need to give my consent. I understand. Click on continue, and you see that the text has already changed. Next, I'll change the font size. At the moment it is set to 16, and I'm going to go ahead and make it 25. I exit from here and I leave the rest as they are. And now we are done choosing our design system. If I publish and exit from here, you will see the new look and feel of my website. So that's it on how we choose a design system for our website. The next thing I'm going to do is customize the header and footer of my website. To do that, I click on customize again. From here, I click on header. and it will open up the header customizer. Right here you see that I have 3 rows. We have the top row, main row, and then bottom row. For this website I will make use of the top row and then the middle row. At the moment I have logo, menu, and then search. I can reposition the menu like this, and you see the menu right here. At the moment I don't have a menu yet, and I will show you how we can create one later on. I can easily take it back to its original location. Assuming I don't need this search button here, that is what we see here, I can just take it off from here. Maybe I want to add a button. I click on it from here, and it's going to come after the menu. Next, I'm going to add an additional row on top right here, and I'm going to use the top row, and I'll simply go ahead and use HTML element, and I want it to be in the middle like this. You see I have a sample text, so if I want to change the text, I just click on it, and this way I enter my text. Perfect. The next thing I want to do is change the background color of the top row, so I click on the gear icon right here, and it will take me to the top row customizer. Next I go over to design, and the background at the moment is set to white. I just click on the color, and I'll choose color 4, and you see that my text color has disappeared. So what I do is just click on the HTML element here, and it will take me to the HTML customizer. I click on design, and then the text initial color, I set it to color 1. Next I customize the main row. I'll go ahead and click on back. From here I go over to headers, and the global header, I click on it, and I'm going to go ahead and make it a sticky functionality. And the sticky functionality, I'm going to use only the main row. So if I'm going to be scrolling, only the main row will be sticky. Next I go over to design, and then the background color for the sticky state, I'll use color 1. Sorry, that's the default. And then the sticky, I use the same color. Now if I hover on the main row and click on the gear icon, I'm going to decrease the height of the row, and I'm going to make it 100 pixels like this. I'll enable sticky state row shrink, and I'll leave it as 70. So if I'm scrolling, the sticky row will be 70 pixels and the normal will be 100 pixels. Next I go over to design. The default background color for the row is set to white. I will make it color 1, and then the sticky state is also going to be color 1. Perfect. The next thing I do is change my logo. So I just hover on it, then I click on this blue icon right here, or I can easily click on it from here. Either way, they will all take me to the same place. From here I click on select logo, and what I'm going to do is I have all the images I want to be using on this website, so I'll just select all, then I go ahead and drag and drop, so that I don't have to be uploading the images one after the other. I have my logo right here. I select it, then I click on select. It is added right here, and you see that I still have the name of the website, which is in text form. So what I do is I scroll down here, and I'm going to go ahead and hide the site title. Awesome. Next, let's create a menu for our website. To do that, I go back, scrolling down, I click on menus. At the moment we don't have any menus created, so I click on create new menu, and I'm going to go ahead and call it main menu, and I'll add it to header menu 1. Then I click on next. Next I go ahead and add some items. At the moment you see that I have home page, and it is set to custom. That means that it's not my normal home page, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new page and call it home. Take note, you can easily create a page from here, or you can go to the back end of your website and create a page. Either way, it will take you to the same place. So I click on add, and I have my page right here. Next I add items, and I'm going to go ahead and add some custom links. And the first one, I drop down the arrow, and what I'm going to do is copy my URL, then I go ahead and paste it in here. So after my domain name, I make sure I have /, then I enter hash, and the first link I'm going to create is going to be portfolio, and the link text will be portfolio. I click on add to menu, and it is added right here. If I click on it, this is how my link will look like, and I will be showing you the reason why I'm adding this kind of link. You see it is being added here. Perfect. Let's add the rest of the links. So I click on add items, custom links. I paste the URL I copied, hashtag, and the second link is going to be process. Link text will be our process. Click on add to menu. And finally, I add the last one. I add hashtag, and it's going to be pricing. Link text will also be pricing. Click on add to menu. And now we are done. I can publish it, and this is how it will look like. The next thing we are going to do is customize the menu. So I hover on it, then I click on the icon right here. First of all, I want to make sure that the main menu is selected, even though we have the same menu here. Under items inner spacing, I'm going to make it 85, and you see the spacing has been created. Next, I go over to design. The font size, I'll change it to 16 from here. At the moment it is set to capital letters throughout. I'm going to go ahead and make it capitalized so that only the first letter will be capital. Next, I click on bold 700. Then I'm going to make it semi-bold 600. Awesome. I exit from here. Next, I go over to font color for the menu. The active is going to be color 4. Perfect. Now let's customize the button. I select it. At the moment it is set to default. I will use ghost. And the text is going to be book a call. Don't worry, it will show because the color has not changed. As you can see, upon hover, the text shows. Next, I go over to design. The label text color, the default is going to be my color 4. As you can see, the text has appeared. Button color will also be color 4. And then the hover, I think I'll leave it as it is. Perfect. The border radius, I'm going to go ahead and make it 0. Now let's customize our header for mobile devices. So from here, I click on tablet, and this is how it will look like. However, I don't need this hamburger menu here. I'm not going to be using a menu. So what I do is I take off the trigger, and it's gone. And I'm going to go ahead and drag in my button like this. And you see it right there. I'm not going to be making use of the top row for the mobile devices. Let's see how it will look like in mobile. Maybe I want to reduce the size of my logo for mobile. So I click on it from here, and I'm going to make it 30. I think 30 is too small. I make it 40. I think 40 is cool. So we are done customizing our header. Next, let's take a look at how we customize our footer. Before I do that, I will take it to the desktop mode. Then I go back, I click on footer, and it will open up the footer customizer. For the footer, we also have 3 rows, and I'm going to make use of the middle row and then the bottom row. First, let's go to the middle row. I select it. At the moment it is using 3 columns. I'm going to use only 1 column. Next, I go back, and it will take me to the global footer, and I'm going to go ahead and drag in widget area 1 like this. I click on the widget area 1, and from here I'm going to go ahead and add in an image, and I'll be using my logo there. So I go to my media library. Since I already have it there, it's here. I select it, then I click on select, and it is right here. Next, under horizontal alignment, I'll go ahead and choose middle. Vertical alignment will also be middle. The next thing I do is change the background color of the row. So I hover on middle row, click on the gear icon, I go over to design, and then row background, I click on it from here, then I choose my color 1. Next, I go over to the bottom row, I select the gear icon, and I'm going to go ahead and choose column 3. And then the column layout, I'm going to choose the second one. From here, I drag in the copyright into the middle. I'll click on copyright, and this way I can change the text. So what I do is I don't need the text copyright itself. Since I have the symbol here, I will need the year. So I come out of the curly brackets, then I go ahead and add in 2 curly brackets. Inside it, I enter site underscore title, and it will give me my website title. From here, I take the whole of this off. I can say by Dikupages web. I can link it to my website. I just highlight it, then I click on insert link, https://dikupagesweb.com. I want to open it in a new tab, So I go over to open link in a new tab, click on update. Now let's change the background color. So I hover here, then I click on the gear icon. I go over to design, the row background color. I select it from here and I choose my color one. You see that the copyright text is not in the middle perfectly as we have the logo. So I select it back. Under horizontal alignment, I choose middle, and then vertical will also be middle. And now we are done customizing our footer. The next thing I'm going to do is add a scroll to top feature. Going back, then I go over to general. From here, I enable scroll to top. I click on the small arrow right here. This is where you can change the icons if you want. At the moment, you won't see it in action because my page is not lengthy. I go over to design. I'll maintain the icon colors, the shape background color. I'll maintain the initial. However, the hover, I'll choose color 2. All is set for customizing my header and footer. The last thing I'm going to do is add a shortcut icon to my website. That is the icon that will show here when you say visit the website tab. So I go back, then I scroll down to site identity. From here, I click on site icon. I have my icon right here. Then I go ahead and click on select. I'll skip cropping and I have it right here. All is set. I click on publish. Then I go ahead and exit from here. And that's it on how we customize our website. Now that we are done customizing our website, the next thing we are going to do is create our landing page. To do that, I go to the back end of my website. Then I hover on pages, click on add new page. I exit from here. You see that I'm not seeing the WordPress menu here. I can easily go over to options. Then I go ahead and click on full screen mode so that I'll be able to see the menus. My page title is going to be home, or maybe for SEO purposes, I'll call it dental web agency. It doesn't really matter. You can give it whatever name you want. I go ahead and click on publish. Now my page is published. I can view it from here. I'll just right click, open link in a new tab. So now we have created this particular page and we want it to be our default home page. Take note, creating it doesn't necessarily make it our default home page, so we have to assign it to be our default home page. At the moment, you see that I have the title right here, that is web agency. Now if I go back, I go over to settings, then I click on reading. At the moment, my home page is set to your latest post. I'll go ahead and select a static page. Under home page, I drop down the arrow, then I choose the page I just created. Then I go ahead and click on save changes. Now if I go to the front end of my website and refresh, you will notice that the page title will go off. And this is how we assign our page to be our default home page. We are not going to be adding it as a link simply because users can easily click on the logo here, which will take them to their home page. Perfect. I can exit from here. Now that we are done creating our page, let's go ahead and design it to make it a nice landing page. And we are going to be using the Elementor page builder to design our page. To do that, first of all, let's go ahead and install the Elementor page builder. So I go to the back end of my website, hover on plugins, click on add new plugin. Under search plugin, I search for Elementor. I have it right here. I click on install now. It is installed. I will need another plugin called premium add-ons for Elementor. I click on install now. They are all installed. I can go to the plugins page. Then I go ahead and activate them at once. So I select them. I click on bulk actions, activate, apply. And now my two plugins are activated. Now if I go to the front end of my website, I go ahead and click on edit page. And from here, I click on edit with Elementor. I can exit from here and here as well. The first thing I do is take off the title here. I don't need it. So what I do is come over to the gear icon right here, that is page settings. Click on it. From here, scrolling down, under page layout, I drop down the arrow, then I choose Elementor full width. And the Elementor builder will reload. Now the title is gone. Now let's start designing our page. The first thing I do is add a new container. So I click on the plus icon here, then I choose Flexbox. I'm going to use the first structure. Next, I'll go over to add element right here. Then I go ahead and add in another container. So I'll just drag it and drop it inside. Next, I go over to add element again. This time around, I'll add a heading element. I drag it inside the inner container. And from here, I enter my text. I want my text to be in 2 lines. So what I do is I come over here. After the website, I close the space. Then I enter this tag. And that is break. This tag will enable me to have my text in 2 lines. Next, I go over to style. I will center it. Next, I go to typography, and the size, I'll make it 130 pixels. Next, I go to elements, and I'm going to go ahead and add text editor right under my title. And this way, I enter my text. I take this off, then I enter in my text. Next, I go over to style, and I'll center it. The size of my text is not going to be changed because I'm using the default size from the theme customizer. Next, I go over to elements, and I'm going to add a new container right under my text editor. Inside the new container, I'll add another container like this. And I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one. That is the inner one. So I hover on it, right click, then I click on duplicate. And you see that the containers are being stacked on top of each other. And I want it to be in a column form. So what I do is hover on the outer container like this, and the layout, I change the direction to row horizontal. Next, I go over to elements, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a button in here, and the text is going to be book a call. Don't worry, the link, we leave it as hashtag for now. I'll be showing you how we enter the link right here later on. Next, I go over to style. The position, I'll set it to right. Typography, I'm going to increase the font size to 20. I exit from here. Under normal, text color is going to be my color 4. And then background color, I click on the color right here, and I'm going to go ahead and take off the color completely. Next, I go over to border type, and I'll choose solid. Border width, I'll enter 2 so that it will run throughout. Going down, border radius is going to be 0 so that it will be sharp. And then padding, I'll unlink the values. Top is going to be 20, and then right will be 50, bottom will be 20, and finally left will be 50. Now, what do we want to see when we hover on it? So I go up, then I click on hover. Text color upon hover is going to be white. So I'll go ahead and choose my color 8, and then background color, I'll use color 2. And now you begin to see my sticky effect on the header and also the scroll to top, simply because we now have something on the page. Perfect. Next, let's add in some revisions. So I go to elements, then I search for rating. I have it here. I just drop it in here. The scale, I'm going to leave it as 5. If I enter, for instance, 10, you'll see 10 stars. So I'll leave it as 5. Next, I go over to style. The size is going to be 11, and the spacing is going to be 2. Next, I go over to add elements, and I add in a text editor right under the rating. In here, I go ahead and enter my reviews. So I have 40 plus Google reviews. Next, I go over to style, and the size, I will change it to 20. You see that there's much space in between the rating and then the text. I go over to advanced, I unlink the values and the margin. At top, I'll enter -20. Perfect. I want the content here to be in line with the button here. So what I do is select the outer container like this. And the layout, I make sure center is selected under justify. And then align items, I choose center. And you see the movement. Let's hide this to take a look. This is kind of cool. Awesome. And now let's add our next section. So I click on the plus icon, flexbox, and I'm going to go ahead and use the first container. I go over to elements, and I'm going to go ahead and add in an image like this. I click on it to choose my image, and this is the image I'm going to use. I select it, then I click on select. Next, I go over to style. Under border type, I'll choose solid, and then the border width, I'll make it 15 pixels. So with this, if users land on my website, for the fact that a portion of this image is showing, they may want to see the rest of the image by scrolling.
If you are finding value so far, please click on the like button. It does help me out. Also subscribe if you are new here. Alright, let's get back to the video.
Going down, let's create our next section. I click on add container, flexbox, and I'll choose the first one. Next, I go over to add element, then I'll drag in my heading, and this way I enter my text. And what I'm going to do is scroll up, right click on this text, that is the heading, copy it, then I come down here, right click on this one, then I click on paste style so that it will assume the same style. However, upon selecting it, I go over to style, the typography, I'm going to go ahead and make it 90 pixels. Awesome. Next, I go to add element, and I'm going to add a text editor right under the heading, and this way I enter my text. I go over to style, then I align it to the center. Next, I go over to add element, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a container right under my text editor. The direction, I will set it to row horizontal. Next, I go to add element again, and I'll add in a new container inside the first one. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it just by right clicking on it, then click on duplicate, and I'll have two columns. The next thing I do is select the inner container here, then I go over to style, and the background type I select classic, then I go over to my color icon. I'll go ahead and choose color 4. Next, I click on the color here, and I'm going to go ahead and reduce the opacity. I'll take it to this, and you see that it's having a color code. I can easily repeat the same thing for the second column. I select it like this, then I go over to style, I choose classic for the background type, then the color, I just go ahead and paste in the color from here. Next, I go over to add element, and I add in my heading like this, and I'll change the text to step 1 in capital letters. I go over to style, I center it, the typography, I'll enter 25, and then the text color, I'll go ahead and choose my color 2. Next, I go over to add element again, and I'll add in my heading element, the text, I enter this, that is going to be planning and then wireframe step. I go over to style, I center it. Next, I go over to add element, and I'm going to go ahead and add in an image. I click to choose my image. I select this one, that stands for wireframe. Next, I go over to add element, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a text editor right under the image, and this way I enter my text. Next, I go over to style, I align it to the center. The text color, I'll change it to white, and then the typography, I change the size to 16. Next, I go over to advanced. Under padding, I'll go ahead and link the values. Right, I set it to 80 pixels, and then left 80 pixels. Finally, I go over to add element, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a button right under my text. Under text, I enter this, that is going to be timeline in 2 days. It's not actually going to be a button, so I remove the link just by removing hashtag. If I hover now, you see that it's no more a button. Next, I'm going to go ahead and add an icon. So I click on icon library, and I'll search for, let's see, clock. I have it right here, I select it, and I click on insert. The icon spacing, I enter 10 pixels. Next, I go over to style, I'll center the button. The button normal color, I set it to white, even though it's already white, but I just want to be sure. And then the background color, I choose my color 2. going down, the border radius, I'm going to go ahead and make it 0 so that it will be sharp. And final padding, I'll go ahead and make it 15 pixels. Now if you take a look at the bottom, you see that there's much space as compared to the top. So what I do is I unlink the values and the padding, and then bottom I decrease it to maybe 12. I think 12 is cool. Perfect. The next thing I do is add space at top, bottom, left and right. So what I do is make sure the column is selected. Then I go over to advanced. Then padding, I'll set it to 50 pixels. So now I've gotten the design I want. What I do is I'll just go ahead and duplicate this container. Then I'll go ahead and take this one off since it's empty. Just right click on it, click on delete. Perfect. And the next thing I do is duplicate the outer container. So I right click on it, then I click on duplicate, so that I will have 4 steps, as you can see right here. If you look closely, you see that the space in here is not the same as this. So what I'm going to do is select this particular container, that is the bottom one. Then I'll go over to advanced. I unlink the values and the margin. Then top, I make it -20. Now it's time to change the content. The first one is already set, so I click on step under the second one. I'll just go ahead and add number 2. Take note, I'm using Roman numbers. And then the title here, I take it off, and it's going to be branding plus content. I change the image. I have my brand image here. I select it. Then the text here, I select it, take it off. Then I go ahead and enter in my text. And then the button, I just select it. So this one, instead of 2 days, is going to be 2 to 4 days. Similarly, I do the same thing to the rest of the 2. I'll do this pretty quick and get back to you. All is set. The next thing I do is create space at top and at bottom for the entire container. So I just click on the 6 dots right here. Then I go over to advanced. I unlink the values and the margin. Top is going to be 100 pixels and then bottom will be 50 pixels. Let's save it and take a look. Perfect. This is clean and neat. Going back, the next section we are going to add is the portfolio section. So I go to the end, then I click on the plus icon, flexbox, and I choose the first one. I go over to add element, then I drag in my heading element. I go ahead and change my text from here. Going up, I just copy this text. That is the title. Then I go ahead and paste the style. Perfect. Next, I click on the 6 dots icon right here. Then I go over to advanced. I unlink the values and the margin. Then top, I'll enter 100 pixels so that I have much space right here. Next, I add another container. I choose flexbox, and I'm going to go ahead and choose this particular one where I get 4 columns like this. Next, I go over to add elements. Then I search for scroll, and I have image scroll right here. On top, you see that we have PA attached, and this is as a result of the premium add-ons for Elementor plugin we installed. I drag it, then I drop it in here. I click to choose my image. I select this one, then I click on select. Going down, the height, I'm going to go ahead and change it to 400 pixels. Now if I hover on it, you see that the speed is too much. So I go over to advanced settings, and then speed, I change it to 10. Now if I hover, you see that it is normal now. Awesome. One thing I can also do is go back to image settings. Going down, I can enable link. Then I'll go in here. I'll enter the link to the particular website I'm showing as my portfolio. I'll just enter my own website. If I want users to open it in a new tab, I click on link options. Then I select open link in a new window. So what I do is I just right click on this one, copy, right click in here, click on paste. I do the same thing here, right click, click on paste, right click, click on paste. And now I can change to their respective images. I just select this one, then I click on choose image. I select this, click on select. The third one, I select it, choose image. I click on this, select, and finally the fourth one, I select it, choose image, then I select this one, select. And now we are done with our portfolio section. I can click on publish to save my work. The next section I'm going to create is going to be similar like this one. So what I do is I can just go ahead and right click here, click on copy, going down, I right click here, click on paste. I'll have the same heading style. The only thing I need to do is select this, then I'll go ahead and change my text. I'll insert a new section and I'll choose this one, and this is going to serve as my testimonial section. What I do is go over to add elements, then I search for testimonial, and this is the one I'm going to use, just the default one from Elementor. I drag it in here. If you want to add an image, this way you can do that. That is image for the person who is going to be giving the testimonial, and this is how it will appear. I don't need the image, so I just take it off. I'll just leave it as John Doe. Meanwhile, I want to add the person's portfolio as part of the name, so I enter pipe character. Instead of the portfolio, I can add the name of the business, so I can say Olu Dental. The title, I don't need it. Next, I go over to style. The typography, I change the size to 18 pixels. And then style, I make it italic. I exit from here. I go over to name. The typography is going to be 20 as the size. The next thing I do is go over to add element. Then I search for rating. I have it here. I drag it, drop it right here. I center it. Next, I go over to style. As a matter of fact, I have a style on top right here I can use, so I just copy this one, copy, come down in here. I just right click on this one, click on paste style. Meanwhile, I can change it back to centered by selecting it, go back to content, click on center. There's too much space in between the testimonial and then the rating. So what I do is go over to advanced. I unlink the values under margin, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to -20 at top. Perfect. Next, I select the entire container like this. Then I go over to advanced. Under padding, I'll just go ahead and enter 50 across board. And what I'm going to do right now is right click on the container again, duplicate. I want to have it 4 times. Right click, duplicate, and finally right click, duplicate. And now I can go ahead and take off the empty ones. So I just right click on this one, delete, right click, delete, and finally right click, delete. Next thing I do is select the entire container here. Then I go over to advanced. Under margin, I unlink the values, and bottom I make it 50 pixels. And now we are done with our testimonial section. The next section we are going to add is a value proposition section, or you can also call it a call to action section. So I click on add container, I choose flexbox, I'll choose the first one. Next, I go over to add element, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a new container inside right here. Under container width, I'll make it 85. And you see that it is stuck to the left side, so I select the outer container right here. Then justify is going to be centered. Align items will also be centered. I'm going to go ahead and change the background color to the inner container, so I select it. I go over to style. I select classic as my background. I go over to colors, then I'll choose this color. And I'm going to reduce the transparency from here. As a matter of fact, I think I did something similar on top here, right here. So I select the container, then I go over to style. I'll just go ahead and copy the color from here. Going down, I select this one, I click in here, then I paste so that my colors will be consistent. Just in case I want to use this color again, I can easily add it to my color palette. I'll call it transparent background, transparent BG. Okay. Now if I scroll on top, I want to use this text style, so I just right click on it, copy, going down, I right click in here, then I go ahead and click on paste. So this is how beautiful Elementor is. From here I can change the title to get started. Next I go over to elements, then I drag in my heading elements like this. The text is going to be book a discovery call. Next I go over to style, the typography I'll make it 60 pixels and I'll set it to align center. Next I go over to add elements and I drag in the text editor, and this way I enter my text. I go over to style, I center it, and then typography I change the size to 16. I will also change the color to white. Finally I want to add a button. So what I can do is scroll on top here. I'll just copy this button to make my work easy. Going down, I right click right after the text editor, then I click on paste. Meanwhile it is aligned to the right, I select it, then I make sure it is aligned to the middle. So I go over to style, then I click on center. I want to add space at top and at bottom, so I make sure the entire column is selected, then I go over to advanced. I unlink the values and the padding, and top is going to be 50, bottom 50. Also I'll add some space to the outer container, so I select it, then I go over to advanced, then margin is going to be 100 pixels for top and then 50 for bottom. Awesome. And now we are done with our book a call section, or our value proposition section. I click on publish to update my work. The final section I'm going to add is a frequently asked questions section. So I click on add new container, I choose flexbox, then I choose the first one. From here I add in a heading element like this, and this way I enter my text, frequently asked questions. Next I go over to style. Okay, I can easily go on top here and copy the style. I copy, going down, right click, click on paste style. Alright, next I go over to add elements, then I search for accordion. I have accordion right here. I'll just drag it and drop it under the title. At the moment I'm giving 2 accordion items and I want to have up to 5, so I add another one, and finally the last one, so that I will be able to have 5 questions. So to enter my first question, I click on the first accordion tab, and this way I enter my question, and right here is where I enter my answer. I can collapse this, and the next question I enter it right here. So similarly for the first one, I'll enter the rest of the questions and get back to you. Alright, I've entered all my questions, as you can see right here. Now let's go ahead and format our accordion. So I go over to style. I don't need the border lines, so what I do is just go here and enter 0. You see that the border is gone. Next I go over to title. The background color for title, I'm going to go ahead and use my transparent background color. Next I go over to padding and I'll enter 20 pixels across. The next thing I do is go over to advanced, then under margin I unlink the values. Right, I'll enter 200 pixels, and then left 200 pixels, and this is how it will look like, which is kind of cool. And then the icon, I want to change the position, so I click on icon, I will set it to end like this. Perfect. Now let's create space at top and at bottom for the entire container or the entire section. So I click on edit section right here, Then I go over to advanced. I unlink the values under margin. Top is going to be 100 pixels and then bottom will be 50 pixels. I click on publish to save my work. And now we are done with our frequently asked questions section. Now, if you take a look at our website, you see that the pricing section is being omitted. So let's see how we can add it up. To do that, we are going to install a plugin. So I go to the back end of my website, then I go over to plugins, click on add new plugin. Under search plugins, I search for table press. And this is the plugin I'm going to use, table press, table in WordPress made easy. I click on install now. It is installed. I go ahead and activate. I click on skip, and this is where we create our tables. So I'll just go ahead and click on add new table. I'll give it a name. I'll just call it pricing. You can give it a description if you want. I'm not going to do that. Next, I'm going to go ahead and make it 7 rows, and then the columns will be 3. I click on add table. And here's the shortcode that I'll embed onto my page. So going down, this is where I enter the content of the table. So the first thing I do here is enter the title. I make it features. And then under column B is going to be web agency. And finally, I'll enter orders for column C. Next, I come under features. And this is where I begin to enter the features I want to enter in my table. The first feature is going to be turn around time. Since I'm creating this table for a web design agency, under web agency I enter 6 to 10 days, and then under orders is going to be 2 to 4 months. Next, under features I have total cost. One thing I can do, I can also go ahead and paste what I want to type like this. Similarly, I can equally paste in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and enter the rest of the content and get back to you. Alright, I've entered my content. Going down, I'll go ahead and save the changes. The next thing I do is go ahead and copy the shortcode from here. I copy it, then I go to my website, I click on edit with Elementor. Scrolling down to the section where I want to add it, I want to add it after this particular section. So I go down right here on this section, I click on the plus icon, and this way I add in my container. And what I do is go over to add element, then I search for shortcode. I have shortcode element here, I drag it, then I go ahead and paste it in here. That is the shortcode I copied, and this is awesome. I'll also add a heading for the section. So I go over to add elements, then I drag in the heading elements like this on top, and this way I enter the text. And I'm going to enter why choose us. So people will choose us because of our pricing. Scrolling up, I'll just copy the style from here. Then I go ahead and paste the style on my heading here. Paste style. Perfect. If I want it to look clean, I'll select the entire container. Then I go over to advanced. I unlink the values under margin. Then top, I add 100 pixels for top, and then bottom 50 pixels. And this is how it will look like. Now if I update, let's take a look. And this is how my table will look like. And right here you see that I have some features where I can easily select the number of entries I want to display. As you can see, at the moment I don't have much, that's why you don't see any effect. If I also want to search, I can come right here, then I can search for, maybe I want to search for content, and you see that I have website content right here. I can take it off. What if I don't want users to see all these parameters? And down here I have a footer showing 1 to 6 of 6 entries and then navigation. If I don't need all this, let's see how we can take it off. So I go back to the table editor, going down to table features for site visitors. This way we have sorting, search and filter, and then pagination. If I don't want any of this, I'll just go ahead and untick them. What if I don't want users to have access to all these features? I can easily go ahead and select it from here to take it off. Then I go ahead and save the changes. Now if I go to the front end and refresh, you see that everything on top right here for search and then the footer are gone. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and add some text right here in between the title and then the table. So what I do is I just go ahead and drag it in here, and this way I enter my text. Next I go over to style and I align it to the center. Now we are done designing our landing page. The next thing we are going to do is optimize for mobile. To do that, I go ahead and click on tablet right here, and starting from the top I select my text, then I go over to style. Under typography, I can reduce the size of the text to maybe 75 so that I have it in 2 lines. The rest are fine, so I don't do anything. Going down, I select this one, then I go over to style, typography, I change the size to 65. Going down, I will select the title here, then I go over to style, typography, I'll change the size to 20 so that it will be in 1 line. And what I do is I just right click, click on copy, right click on this one, click on paste style. Going down, I do the same thing for the rest of the 2. Paste style, paste style. Next, let's work on this text. I select it, then I go over to advanced. Remember we added some padding to it, and this way we can alter it. I just go ahead and unlink the values and everything is cool. So I do the same thing to the rest. Unlink the values, go down, select it, advanced, unlink the values, select it, advanced, unlink the values, and we are done. Going down, the rest of the headings I want them to have the same size as this, so I'll just copy it. Going down, I right click, paste style. Going down, right click here, paste style. Going down, right click, paste style, and finally frequently asked questions, right click, paste style. Let's go to top again. That is from here. I think the table is looking fine, so we don't do anything. This section 2 is looking fine, so we don't do anything here. Testimonial 2 is good. The value proposition is also looking fine. What we may want to change is the frequently asked questions, so I select it, then I go over to advanced. Remember we added some margin, so I unlink the values, and then right I'll make it 20 and then left 20 pixels so that there will be much breathing room. All is set for tablet. Let's go over to mobile, and starting from the top I select the title, then I go over to typography and the style. Here I'll change the size to 50. The button, I will select it, and the style I change it to centered like this. Similarly, I select the content inside this container. First of all, I have the rating, I make it centered, and then the text I go over to style. Upon selecting it, then I choose align center. Awesome. Next I go ahead and change the size of this heading by selecting it, then I go over to style, click on the pencil icon and the typography. I will change it to 30. Okay, maybe 40. I think 40 is cool. And I'm going to repeat the style for the rest of the heading, so I copy it. Going down, I right click here, paste style. Going down, right click, paste style. Going down, right click, paste style, and finally frequently asked questions, right click, paste style. Let's go to top again so that we put from there. This text here, I'll change the size. So I go over to style and the typography, I make it 20. I right click on it, copy the style. Going down, I'll repeat it for the rest of the subheadings, like this one here. Right click, paste style. Going down, okay, I think that's all. Alright, now let's scroll to the top and build from there. So everything else from here is fine. So I don't do any other thing from here. Alright, maybe what I do is reduce the size for the frequently asked questions. So I select it up, then I go over to style, the title, I go to typography, then I enter 20. I exit from here, then the content, I click on the pencil icon, then I enter 18. Perfect. All is set. I click on publish. I can take a look. So we have everything intact. Awesome. Perfect. And now we are done designing our web agency website. I can exit from here and here as well.
Alright, that's it on how you can create your lead generation website using WordPress and Elementor. Now, if you want potential clients to book calls with you, make sure you watch this video on my left. And if you want to start a web agency business by choosing e-commerce as your niche, you can get started by watching this video. Keep watching and I'll see you in any of the two videos.